Welcome into Emerald and Lilywhite, the official YouTube channel of Seattle Spurs, episode 31. And it's an exciting episode because we are 2 days, actually a day and a half now as we record this on Monday evening, the 30th of December, 18 hours away from the transfer window officially opening. And for Spurs fans, that can be mixed emotions, we could say. Of course, we always need signings. We never make signings, right? So the January window is always, a bit of a mixed bag for us, but at this current time in the Spurs world, incredibly important that the squad is able to be strengthened and deepened, right? So again, exciting things on the horizon, and we're here to talk about all of it. With me, as always, is my co-host Max at Going Limbs. Max, what's up, man?
Yeah, another weekend in the books. Another Spurs disappointment, I guess, at this point. I don't know. It's kind of expected. So, yeah, on to like something more exciting, the potential transfers that we could have, but probably won't. But, there's some hope at least until January 31st. So, yeah, I'm excited to talk about it.
No doubt, man. Glad to have you. And with us is Robbie. You guys know him by now, at Robbie_Light or Robbie Light on Twitter. Not even going to address the bit anymore. It is what it is, right? But someday it will be Robbie_Light across all platforms. Until then, Robbie, what's up, man?
Yeah, not too much. I guess curious to see. We're coming in on a big stretch of games, and then obviously the window. A lot of tweets I've been reading the last couple of days about just how supposedly they were getting their ducks in a row already to hit the ground running, all the stuff we hear every year. So I'm not going to hold my breath. I'm sure we'll get into it later. And I've told you guys this before, but I'll never forget the January window when we signed Pedro Porro. That one took years off my life because it was like January 1st we were in on him, and it took until the final minutes of it. And it was just Fabrizio Romano tweeting 15 times a day, like stalemate, no progress made, still working, and it was just insane. So after that transfer window, I think that would have been 2 Januaries ago now. I've learned to just like disconnect in January because that like ruined my life. I couldn't stop checking Twitter and there was just no update. And I was like, all right, gotta not look in January.
Yeah, there's definitely been a time in my life where I've spent the entire month of January refreshing my Twitter feed. Not good for anyone, right, when that happens. I think I've gotten to the point as a Spurs fan where I just kind of hang back and wait to hear that something happens. And usually it's like just January 29th when I start needing to pay attention, right? But we'll see. We know we could use some signings, and one of those reasons why is because Spurs this past weekend drew 2-2 against Wolves at home. Another super poor result against a super poor team. Granted, a bit of a manager bounce, we could say, if you want to call it that, right? But I think at this point, one win in like 2,500 games is what we're at. So I'm not going to count manager bounces for
maybe anything. A couple draws in there.
Yeah, maybe a few draws, right? But yeah, Spurs drop points again to Wolves. Wolves, again, are not good. Started with a wonderful strike from Hwang Hee-chan, who is somebody that I rate quite highly, actually, as a footballer. I think he's a heck of a footballer. Bentancur levels it up with a bullet header. Beautiful goal from Johnson, and we'll talk about all of this in more detail, right? But a beautiful goal made by Kulusevski, who continues to be the only sign of light the Spurs have at the moment. And then Jorgensen and Larson in the 87th minute draws level. I think anybody could have told you that was coming, right? But let's get into the match. I'll start with the lineup here. Pretty standard based on what's available to us at this point. I think maybe some question marks in the midfield for me. But Max, I'll come to you, man. What was your immediate take on that lineup?
Yeah, don't know about like the Basuma and the midfield thing. Just want to see Bergvall, man. Like, we gotta rotate like that. I don't know what Ange like has or has not learned from like every single player getting injured, but maybe like use the players in these games that were theoretically better than the other team and can play on the front foot to give like Basuma a break, because he's obviously intending to rest Sarr. So why don't you put like a like for like player, in my opinion, which is Bergvall, in there? So it's a bit disappointing, but can't complain too much. Sonny again. Yeah, don't think he should have played this game. I think that's a Madison, or you figure it out with Kulu and Johnson at the wings, or put Madison at left wing. Like, I think Madison has to start. There's no excuse for him to not start 2 games in a row. I don't understand like what the ups and downs with James Madison. It feels like every time he actually gets starts, he produces goals and assists. So it's getting frustrating for me. Especially with, like, you saw Son's performance. Like, he is obviously not himself right now, and it's because he's playing so many games. When he's on like the 1 game a week program, that's definitely when he's at his best. He's 32. You can't expect that much from him, but he can definitely produce on a weekly basis, but not when he's playing 4 or 5 games in a row.
Yeah.
Solanke obviously playing every game. Shout out to him. And then the back line is what it is. I'm frankly just tired of talking about it. But Dragusin, he had to start if he was even remotely available to play. If he wasn't, I was a big proponent on Twitter to get Alfie Dorrington in the door. I said that on the previous podcast. If it was him or Basuma, I'm taking Dorrington any day. Yeah, and I got into it a bit on Twitter with Lilywhite Lab, which is actually like one of my favorite Twitter accounts that I really like look up to and stuff. And I replied to their tweet. I was like, they were pretty much saying don't start Dorrington. It could be really bad for their development. And I'm like, giving the dude when else is he gonna get like this experience? Like this, if not now, when, is basically my argument, and I still stand by that. Like, I don't think 1 game would stunt his development permanently. Like, it's in need of an emergency. That's the entire reason he's even involved with the squad is for super emergencies, which we almost faced. But it was a moot point in the end because Dragusin started. I can't say there was too many surprises, just disappointing. No Bergvall and Madison. I would have really liked to see those 2 in the starting 11 against Wolves.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think against a team who's really fighting off relegation probably this season, right? I don't understand why you don't expect them to give you more of the ball and have Bergvall and Madison, at least one of them, on the pitch. I don't understand the decision to try to break down a team at the bottom of the table with Bentaker and Basuma both on the pitch. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So yeah, I'm right there with you. I think Bentaker had a pretty solid game. If I'm honest, obviously he takes a late card, which is pretty silly and will cost him the next match against Newcastle, which we'll talk about. I think the running joke is the guy just isn't interested in playing football at this point, right? But I didn't see much from Basuma. I think Kulusevski was super good, right, if we're talking midfielders, but he occupied more of an advanced space for much of the game. But yeah, the midfield was pretty drab in this one for me. But we do carry a 2-1 lead into the 87th, Robbie. And so I think, there was a point in time where I thought we might be able to get a result here. And I think if I look at the match against Forest, it was all based on our inability to create opportunities. I think we did a little bit better in this match against Wolves when it comes to chance creation, right? But it was our inability to see out a lead that cost us. I think were you surprised by that 87th minute equalizer, Robbie?
I think as a Tottenham supporter, I'm not allowed to say no because it happens all the time. And it was, I don't remember, wasn't it like a really sharp angle? And it was just like, oh my, like seriously,
Pathetic
that went in. It was just like that went in kind of goal, which, everyone on the internet will say Spursy, whatever. But yeah, it was just annoying. And it was in a stretch where we see ourselves all the time. Like that was kind of my point in the group text, was that if we have these close misses or we hit a post or we have a breakaway and we just barely miss, or, maybe we have another follow-up shot. Like I see a lot of other teams where they just continue to keep the pressure on, and we let other teams do that to us, where they just keep shooting and shooting and shooting, and finally one goes in. We have a near miss or a narrow miss, and then we're dead for 20 minutes. Like we don't even come back and attempt to shoot the ball. And I don't know what that is. I don't know if our guys are all just mentally soft, and when, oh shoot, that should have went in, that when that happens, everyone just gets down on themselves or something. But I said that like 3 months ago or something in a podcast, and it's like still true. I feel like where it's like we had the Sonny missed penalty kick. In my opinion, the Solanke should have tapped in goal. I don't know if he mistimed his slide or what, but like it was right there for him. You know, and I'm not like blaming him for it, but I think it should have been a goal. But yeah, after that, it was just like all the energy was gone. Everyone was sad, depressed. I don't know. But then I also think about the Brennan Johnson goal, and like that goal, we always talk about it, that first 10 games that Ange was the manager. That's what every one of our goals looked like, and it happened every time. And now it's like it happens once every game or two or something, but like for the most part, it's just this jumbled mess of people that are in each other's way. You know, like I said, I already saw it on Twitter after I told you guys that it was going to be on Twitter, but the scene of Solanke and Bentancur running into each other has already taken its life of its own. Spursy, whatever you want to say about it. It's classic Tottenham, only Tottenham.
That was just the dumbest fucking thing ever. They're acting like no other team has ever had two players run into each other before. It's like insane.
But it's Tottenham, so it means more. But yeah, no, I don't know. Whatever. Again, I don't know. A draw. I think we're scared of draws. It's annoying that it was Wolves, 100%. But like, when you look at our results on the table, it's shocking. We're 11th, but we have more losses than any other team except for the bottom three, and we have 7 wins, which is more wins than almost any other team except for like the top 4. We have the most ridiculous fixture result. Like, we need more draws. Is the point there? Like we need to stop losing and draw more. So like in this case it stinks, but in a lot of other cases it's like if we didn't have 9 losses and we had like 7 draws, we're in the top 3. Like because we're better than Forest, or you know, like Forest is in the top 2 now, right? And they have like 8 draws, and like 5 wins or something. Like they have a really boring record, but that gets you there in this year's season. But yeah, no, I don't know. I was barely paying attention at the end because I couldn't convince myself otherwise that it wasn't gonna end in a draw. But I knew it was coming, and then of course they scored. So
yeah, I just don't know how you're not able to see out. And I'm talking about the players when I see this. I'm talking about Ange. I'm talking about everybody. I just don't understand the decision to not just see that match out. I think that, yes, the equalizer comes from a really crazy angle, and it's just kind of a fluke of a finish, right? But we allowed a bunch of space on that flank, the left flank, right, or the right flank if we're talking about our own perspective. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to get into the Ange Postecoglou of it all, right? But I wasn't super surprised to see them equalize in the end.
Well, yeah, I would say I have a question for you guys too, because again, I wasn't paying attention enough. But from what I saw on Twitter, a lot of people were suggesting that we kind of did park the bus, and it didn't work. So
we did a little bit.
Yeah,
I'd say definitely didn't like go for it. Past like I'd say 65 minutes. It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't your typical Ange finish, and we almost got it over the line. But dude, Forster on that goal, like if you watch that goal back, it's so bad.
Yeah,
like it's just the worst effort. Like he just sticks a hand out, and it's just right past him on his knee. I hate to keep blaming the guy, but because it's obviously not his fault all the time. But it's just, can we just get one? Like, is it too much to ask for like one crucial block or like one big save at the end of a game? Like I feel like that's just never happened this entire season. It's brutal. It's just too frustrating at this point.
Yeah. I mean, he's a big, slow dude, unfortunately, who we didn't expect to be playing football as much as he has been, obviously. I think outside of that match against, was it Coventry in the League Cup, that we barely got past. I think that was probably designed to be his only minutes this year, and here we are, right? It is really unfortunate when you lose both your center backs and your goalkeeper at the same time. That's really never happens. So I, that is a huge part of why we're in the position we're in. I want to talk about the Sun PK miss too. I think it's at least worth stopping on briefly or momentarily, right? I personally think Son's confidence isn't high right now. Obviously, he's the captain, and he's your finisher historically, right? So I understand the decision to have him take that penalty, but he just didn't look confident for me from the jump when he stepped up to the ball. He just looked a little bit nervous, and I personally would have liked to have seen somebody like Solanke, for example, step up as your striker and just put that thing in the back of the net. Either of you guys have anything to say about that?
Yeah, I said it in the text of like, again, there's no rhyme or reason behind it, but I just feel like we need to start making Solanke take the PKs. But I also think it's fair to say we need to let Son take maybe more of the free kicks. But I think PK wise, like you need the energy of your striker just knocking it home. And I think it's time now that Dom's been here long enough to just let him drill home PKs from now on. And yeah, maybe Son can take some more free kicks or some more set pieces, or, I'm not saying he shouldn't do anything, but I think from a PK standpoint, I would prefer to start seeing Solanke take all of those.
Yeah. Max?
Yeah, I have no problem with Sonny taking it. That's probably who I would still pick to take it, especially now. Like he needed that goal, so it's really unfortunate that he didn't get it there. But I can't remember the last time he missed a penalty for Spurs, so that's a good sign. Obviously, Solanke, I don't know if he's taken one yet. I would not at all be opposed if they made the switch, but I'm kind of fine either way. I think Sonny will be okay. But this was just one of those games. It's one of those games where after it finishes up, like you load up the like 16-17 Harry Kane compilation and you're like, yeah, we would have won this 4-2 if he was on the pitch there. So I don't know. This one, like the other in the past couple months, we've obviously had a lot of podcasts. I feel like I've been quite animated, pretty angry on a lot of them. At this point, I'm just sad. Like it's honestly just making me sad. Like and like apathetic. So yeah, that doesn't really have to do with the Son penalty, but I guess it does. I was sad to see him miss. He really needs it. So we'll see what happens going forward. We got a couple cup matches. Like Tamworth will probably take us the distance, so we can test some people out there.
Yeah. I'm kind of right there with you. I found myself somewhat apathetic to results, at least in the league. I don't have many expectations. I think when you find yourself 11th in the table at the midway point, and I know it's a bit of a different year or an off year, we could say, as far as how the points are shaking out. There's still a lot to play for, but 11th place halfway through the season, you kind of just feel that whether you drop points or secure points, it's not going to be, much of a difference. And so I think at this point, I just want to see decent performances and progression, we could say, out of the league. Cup matches are a different story. I'm living and dying by every single minute of those matches, right? And we got one coming up, which we won't talk about much today. But yeah, I'm feeling myself to be quite apathetic as well towards Spurs results in the league. Robbie, how about you?
Yeah, I feel like I've been saying that for months now of like, it's just cup or bust. And I know, like, I'm not saying like screw the Premier League, but like it was clear very quickly, we're not going to make any noise there. So why don't we focus our efforts elsewhere? But then again, we're not really able to focus anything because we only have 8 healthy players at any given moment. So I don't know who's going to play, who's going to, at the beginning of the year, it was like, oh, great, it's Europa. That means we can get Bergvall minutes and Mikey Moore minutes and Odebear minutes, and all of those people are hurt or not playing anymore, or, whatever. Or they're starting every game now and they're tired. So we're still alive, which is great. But yeah, unless something crazy happens in January where we bring in a lot of bodies or recall people from loan, where we bring in a lot of people, I don't know, but we need 5+ bodies. And I don't think we can count people coming back healthy, I suppose, but then they're just going to get injured right away from what we've seen on previous instances. So I don't know. We need a lot of bodies is my opinion, but it's probably not happening.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the thing when obviously we all know at this point, like, we got to go for the cups. But whenever I hear people say, like, on Twitter or wherever it may be, Robbie kind of just outlined it. It's like, yeah, let's focus on the cups, but like, even when we put our best 11 out in like the Prem, we're still getting smacked. So I don't know how it would be different in a different like setting, I guess, or tournament. So that's kind of where I'm at. I would love to see us make a run, but with the health issues that we have, it just doesn't seem like there's any game that I'm confident in getting a result in right now, unless it's Southampton, I guess.
Yeah, right. Like we said earlier in the chat, Southampton is the one team in the league that we can all comfortably feel like we could get a result against. And this is not a joke. That's really as far as it goes for me.
Yeah, 100%. And United.
And United. Thank you. That was a good shout. But talking about, the fact that we're depleted and I've 8 healthy players, let's talk about the January transfer window. It is upon us, as we said earlier in the introduction to the show today. We're about 18 hours away from the window opening. I personally see midnight on New Year's Eve as not New Year's Eve, but the start of the transfer window. That is what that signifies for me, right? And so I'm always buzzing this time of year. But we're going to dig into it. I think before we do, though, I just have a couple of questions that I want to ask you guys. We are at the halfway point in the season. This was not on the agenda, so sorry to throw this at the both of you. But halfway point of the season, I want to hear who your player of the season so far is and who your disappointment of the season so far is. Just one individual. Max, I'll start with you.
Yeah, player of the season for me has to be Kulusevski. Like you said earlier, he's the one guy that's kind of keeping this team afloat. I'd give honorable mention to Dom Solanke and Archie Gray, especially Archie Gray, for what he's done the last couple of weeks. I know we haven't been getting results, but the way he's stepped up and how good he's honestly looked all across the back line is really impressive for someone who is not a defender. And I can't wait for him to play midfield. But yeah, Kulusevski, whether he was on the right or in the middle of the park, he's been fantastic. I also think Madison's been really good. I'm going to keep saying it. We got to figure out a way to get Kulu and Madison in the same lineup somehow. And like that should be number one on Ange's checklist. That's when we're most dynamic. And then my biggest disappointment, I think it's Porro, man. Like he's been so bad recently. It's like he's not even a shell of like the same player that he was last year. Defensively, it's the worst positioning I've ever seen. Like I don't know what tactically Ange is telling him to do, but when Sarr or whoever's playing 8 is on the field, like Sarr is literally playing right back for him because he's so out of position every single time without fail. It's unreal. The offensive production hasn't been as good, and it's just I'm just tired of him, dude. Like I'm just tired. He's terrible in possession. He can't keep the ball at all. If Madrid genuinely wants him, I'd jump at the chance. Jed Spence has looked pretty good in my opinion, and I think he'll definitely be a piece for the future. Like we just extended his contract. If Porro, he kind of mentioned that he was honored to be linked to Madrid, which is a weird thing to say mid-season regardless. But yeah, dude, complete 180. Because I remember earlier this year, I was like, shout out Porro every game, just putting in a shift, playing for the badge. At this point, he just looks lost out there. I don't know if it's a confidence thing, if it's the system or whatever it is, but he's my disappointment.
Yeah. Robbie? Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any other answer than Kulusevski as the player of the year. I mean, I guess I was just looking at the goal sheet, and I was going to say you should at least tip our cap to Brennan Johnson because he was our leading goal scorer, but now it's James Madison. So, I mean, in terms of goal scoring, Brennan Johnson and James Madison shouldering the load for the most part. So shout out there. I'm going to go off the beaten path for disappointment because I'm just thinking of all of the things that we're missing right now and what we could use. And again, I brought it up last time saying like, I forgot he even existed, but Wilson Odebear to me has to be the biggest disappointment because he played like 2 games and now he's out for the entire year. And he is like, from what it sounds like, the profile of exactly what we're missing on the wing right now, or at least someone to throw in the mix. I mean, you could also maybe argue Mikey Moore with whoever knows what's wrong with him. You know,
He should be available this weekend, apparently.
The internet has come to Mikey Moore's defense, saying he's a child. Stop asking about his medical problems. But you know, who knows? Again, I think we're all going to assume it's mono, but we don't know. But yeah, he missed 2+ months. But yeah, I'm going to say Odebear, because it was like, heck, even if we just had him, how different do you think our offense would have been the last 2 months? Like only Odebear thrown in the mix. We probably would have had a lot of other different moments.
And he's only 19.
Helpful. Yeah.
Which goes to show how like thin we are there. And I think along with that, I hope I don't steal Scott's biggest disappointment, but I just want to throw like the expectations that we had for Romero and Van de Ven. I know it's similar to Odebear. They've been injured, but like, especially for Van de Ven, like we're coming into the season, this dude is our best player. Like he's the best player at Tottenham. Like Madrid wants him for God knows. He's worth like $100+ million and just not available ever. It's disappointing. It's the same thing as Odebear. Odebear hasn't proved it, so that's different there. But I think both our center backs can we stay healthy? I can't blame them for it, but it is a disappointing thing.
Yeah, I think that's a unique way to look at the disappointment of the season, and I like those shots. You know, Robbie's answer and Max's honorable mentions there to the center back pairing. I think all very valid conversations to have here. I'm going Kulusevski for player of the season. I just don't know how anyone else would answer any differently, and I don't need to elaborate any further than the two of you have. My disappointment of the season, this pains me to say this, but it's Heung-min Son. And I feel like it's harsh to say that. I understand he's aging. I understand that we can't expect him to produce the way he did in 2020, 2021, right? Or the years of desk and all of that. But I think I mainly say that because he's our captain and our leader, and I think we need more. We need more guidance and leadership on the pitch right now. I think when Big Frage dropped the ball against Man United, I didn't see much leadership from Sonny. I just don't know if he's, and again, this feels really harsh to say because I love Heung-min Son. I would leave my wife for him in a heartbeat, but I don't see enough of that on-field man leadership that I think a team that's flailing like we are needs. And we've always said, is he like the vocal, direct, get in your face and rough shit up leader that we need? Probably not, right? But he's also somebody that I know the whole team would follow into battle, right? Everybody loves Sonny, but this team might need somebody to grab him by the throat and tell him to get their shit together. And I'm not sure that Sonny's that guy either, right? And then the final reason I say Sonny is right now, I still think where we're missing more than anything is on the wings. I think until we have wing play that can beat a man one-on-one and get into isolated situations and come out of those victorious, we're really going to struggle as a team. I think we're going to see a lot of really low blocks. That's how you beat a low block. You cycle the ball around, you get a winger into an isolation, and you expect them to beat their man. And we just need Sonny to do that. And I understand it might not be his profile. I've talked a lot about how he's more of a guy that needs to find space behind the back line. He's great in countering setups. He's fantastic under Mourinho and Conte, right? He's good against the top six because they leave space behind the line. Struggles against bottom feeders. He always has during his entire time at Spurs, I would argue, right? Really had a hard time against low blocks, but I would need him to figure it out because we need that desperately. You know, you said earlier, Robbie, Brennan Johnson has carried the load from a goal scoring perspective. What differentiates Son Heung-min from being able to do that, right? I just need to see a little bit more from the skipper right now. So again, it feels harsh, but I'd say Sonny is my disappointment of the season.
Can I counterpoint?
Yeah, please.
Not 100% counterpoint, but just like, I guess, a little exercise. How many goals and assists do you think Sonny has right now
this season?
Yeah, all comps.
All comps, I would say close to double digits combined.
13
goals and assists, more than I thought.
Yep.
More than
which is Kulusevski has 15. Solanke has 15, Johnson has 14 for context, and Madison also has.
These are
13.
Contributions, not just goals, right? Yeah.
Contributions.
Interesting. Yeah, so probably some selective memory on my part, but I think I still beat the drum that from the leadership perspective, we removed the
Yeah.
goal scoring contributions or the goal contributions.
And the expectations that we've had based on previous seasons.
100%.
That
And that's
also factors in.
Yeah, that's not necessarily his fault.
I just think some people, not you, but on Twitter, like, it's getting blown out of proportion. Like, he's obviously declining. We all know that, but he's still producing a good amount. And I do reiterate what I said earlier about like the one match a week thing. Like, I think he's run ragged, and then I do agree about the leadership. It's not what you want. It's not what you want, especially during this time.
Yeah, no, I agree with all that, and I know there's some pretty hot takes that it's time to move on from Sonny. I certainly am not there at all. I think Son is at the stage in his career where we need to bring in the type of profiles that allow him to share minutes or even come off the bench a little bit more, right? I think that's where we're at with Sonny right now. I think he'd be very effective against tired legs, just like I think Brennan Johnson would be. Not that Brennan shouldn't start also, right? I think as Spurs fans, we've gotten so caught up in the years over like who is our first 11 and who's the rest, but like you need a first like 16, we could say, right? Got 16, 17 guys that can start and it looks the same and is as effective, right? And we're about halfway there, if at best, right? So let's talk about that.
I was say we need Brennan to be what Timo is, like the guy that we keep bringing on Timo because there's no one else. But like
exactly.
Brennan needs to be the guy that's like, oh, he's fast and he can cross, and like we'll bring him in on 70th minute. He would probably be very good at that. Like that would be he would excel if that's all we asked him to do. And but we're like he has to start every game, and now we're making Timo Werner do that, who can't really do much of anything.
Exactly. And if we had Brennan and Sonny coming off the bench and like some young, like more techie wingers that can create more, and then when we really need a goal, we can put on Brennan, Sonny, those guys that are there to just finish and get goals and assists. So that would be ideal, but it's just like we've said so many times, not the state
I find myself getting excited thinking about this, which is just the sad state that we're in. But I'm like, can you imagine like any game where we're down one goal and it's like, oh, we'll bring on Son in the 70th minute. I think we're all going to be like, yeah, he's going to score, isn't he? Like, he's going to Jota that bitch.
100%. 100%. Yeah, it's a great shot. With Brennan and Sonny coming on in the 70th minute makes my heart sing. 100%. We need to get the club there. Let's talk about that. I think the first question I'll ask, and I'll kick it over to you, Max. Where do you feel that we're lacking? I think these answers could be long. So
I think from a depth perspective, it's center back. Clearly, like we're in a crazy crisis right now. 3 out of 4 center backs injured, if you can call Ben Davies a center back, which he is in my books now. We need to address that. It's just we have to. And then winger as well. I think we have wingers, but they're not good enough or they're not ready. Like you can't be relying on Yang and Mikey Moore, who are allegedly both available for selection this weekend. So we have Yang in the fold now. But we still need starter, like we need Premier League proven or top 5 league proven starters that can produce and be a creative profile like Odebear that take on their man, like exactly what we asked for all summer on this podcast, just begging, like, please get us a creator on the wing. And we still don't have that because of the Odebear injury and because of Mikey Moore. He's also 17 and Yang is 18. We need proven guys. Like, I don't care if we're signing a late 20s winger. If he can produce, we don't need to sign 5-6 year deals with all these guys like what we've been doing. It's okay to get a guy for 20 to 30 million that's proven, get him in for 2-3 years, bridge the gap to when these other guys are going to be in their prime or coming into it at least. On the wings, Odebear, Yang, Moore, that's already 3 wingers there. Brendan Johnson's fairly young as well, so I wouldn't hate to get an experienced winger. Jack Grealish maybe is one that I certainly have my eye on there to bring in. And then also a fullback. I think that's 3rd on my list. think center back and wing are my top priorities. Then fullback, primarily left back to cover because we've got Gray and Spence that can play right back alongside Porro. Don't really have that natural left-sided player, so left-footed. I really want a couple more left-footers at the club in general would be nice. And then I've heard striker midfielder talks. I don't think those are as pressing for me. Richarlison's supposed to be back. I know, just take that with a grain of salt. But
Sure.
I'd be cool signing a striker, but if we sign a striker over a winger, I don't get that, or over any of those other positions I outlined. I think that's something that you can address in summer. And then midfield, we have a lot of midfielders right now. I think we need to give Bergvall more of a shot. But if we do bring in like Johnny, I think I'm cool with that. I'm cool I would be more okay bringing in Johnny over a striker, just because I feel like I've said this repeatedly that it's a done deal already. Like, he's going to be a Tottenham player, so might as well get him in the door right now when we have like nine players available. So I'd be happy with Johnny as well in the midfield there. I don't think the midfield needs too much addressing, because we already have this conflict where like 2 of our top 5 best players are playing the same position in the midfield, and we're trying to get them both on the pitch. And then Sarr has had a good season, and then we got more sixes, Basuma, Bent, Bergvall, all those guys in the midfield. So I think that's definitely where our depth is most concentrated. So winger, fullback, center back, mainly winger and center back. If nothing else, we need those 2 positions so badly. And then goalkeeper would be a bonus, but don't know what will happen there, frankly. I think we might just ride it out with Forrester if I was to bet on it.
Robbie, you got anything to add to that?
No, I'll just quickly say my answer was obviously going to be winger, which is heartbreaking because we have like 15 fucking wingers and they're all hurt. They're all hurt.
Poor.
And I'm also thinking about, too, in my head, like when Richarlison comes back, like I don't like him as an Ange winger. I don't really like him as a striker. Like what does he do for us? I mean, I hope that's something they explore in the January window of like, will someone want him or take him? And if that happens, then maybe it does open up a striker opportunity for Tottenham to go find someone. But I don't know. I hate to say that about Richarlison because he just has never been available. And even so, now in Ange's system, it's like I don't think he fits anything in Ange's system. So like I don't even like him as a left wing, which is probably where we would need him the most. But
it's interesting. You guys
go backup striker.
Go ahead.
Probably. I'm just saying I'd probably just ride it out backup striker and see what happens if we don't get anything in January.
Ride Richarlison out as a backup. Yeah. It's interesting you guys bring up striker, though. Morning Footy covered it very heavily this morning, but there are legitimate links to Kolo Muane from PSG that Spurs have inquired and are interested in his services. And he doesn't see the field for Enrique any longer, right? He tends to play much better for France than he does for PSG for whatever reason. But sounds like he may be looking for a lifeline to be able to play football. And Spurs have inquired. So that could be very interesting. I don't know if it would be a loan. I don't know if it'd be permanent, right? I suspect probably a loan. Knowing how finances look right now and PSG's assumed reluctance to move on from him permanently, right? But we'll see. I don't have anything to add to any of that. The only thing I would say in terms of movement, we could say, is I think Timo needs to go back to Germany in January, and I know how silly that sounds because we're so light, but I think we need to bring in a couple of wingers, and I think Timo needs to go back to Germany. I don't think there's room for him any longer, and I think we need to make room for someone else, which means we need to bring in, again, a couple of wingers in my opinion, but I think it's time to shift Timo back to Leipzig. What I want to do now, though, guys, is a little bit of an exercise. Paul O'Keefe came out with a tweet today, and I know Max pointed out that he immediately responded that it maybe wasn't completely accurate, right? But there was a tweet came out today that Paul O'Keefe had mentioned that Spurs are looking to invest in each of goalkeeper, center back, somewhere in the midfield, and somewhere in the attack, presuming winger, right? So four incoming signings. I don't think that's crazy. I think that's what is required for this project to continue to be pointed in the right direction. And we'll probably hold off on the big picture stuff. We've talked a ton about big picture the last month, and I know we're going to talk more about it. We'll keep this window this episode very transfer specific, right? But knowing that we probably do need someone in each 4 of those quadrants or respective positions, we could say the exercise is going to be for us to go through first goalkeeper, first center back, first midfield, and it doesn't have to be a 6 necessarily, midfielder, and then lastly up top an attacker, and agree on one person that we all think would be a great fit, and then come out of this exercise with 4 solid names that we think as a group would be a really good window for Spurs right now. So I'll start at goalkeeper. Robbie, I'll kick it over to you. And if no one comes to mind, it's perfectly fine, right? I know transfers are robust, and there can be many names. There can also be no names, right, for certain positions. But goalkeeper, anyone come to mind?
This is probably an unpopular answer, but what I want to happen, and maybe no one else wants to happen, if we're going to do anything at goalie, why don't we bring back Keeley? That's where bring him in.
That's my
call
answer
him
too.
From whatever loan. I guess there's a lot of talk about that guy from Sunderland. I don't remember what his name is. But yeah, Keeley. It would be like just bring in a guy from the academy. I assume is homegrown. I assume is English or maybe UK. Whatever for the quota purposes. But yeah, I would say just bring him back if we do anything.
Yeah, that's my answer too. I think bringing back Keeley frees up funds in other areas of the pitch, and quality is quality. We know Vicario will be back at some point in the nearest future, not near, but near-ish, right? We could say. And Keeley, I think, is at least 9 shutouts in League One, if not a 10th now. Super strong on the ball from everything we're seeing. Again, it's League One, right? But we're not asking anyone to come in and be the day-to-day starter for the rest of their existence at Spurs, right? We need someone to get us to Vicario.
Yeah. Can we just get him on the field just for Tamworth, alone? Just put him on for Tamworth and let him have a full run,
Yeah, see what happens.
I'm going with James Trafford. I mentioned him in summer. I think Loki in some we did this exercise in summer. We were kind of cooking. I think we had Archie Gray and Dom Solanke on our lists, which did come true, and then everyone else we signed was kind of pretty unknown. But when me and Scott, our golden boy was Eze, which did not end up coming true. But James Trafford was lower down on my list during summer, so I'm going to stick with him. I've mentioned him a bit on the pod. He has England experience, Premier League experience with Burnley last year. He was formerly of Manchester City. But if we're agreeing on one dude, yeah, I'm down for Josh Keeley. He's definitely a stud. And frankly, I just think that if they genuinely think he's better than Forrester, which I don't know if they do, or if he honestly is, then bring him back. If he's going to play, then bring him back. If he's not going to play and you're just bringing him as a backup to Forrester, then I'd say finish out his loan at Orient. So it just depends, because Vicario is scheduled maybe late February, early March, at the best possible time frame. So I could see them just riding out 2 more months with Forrester, seeing where we're at, and then Vicario hopefully back for those Europa League knockout stages, possibly a Carabao Cup final in there. So yeah, we'll see. I don't think there's too many super, super important matches in the Europa League before Vicario gets back. There may be a round of 32.
Hoffenheim and Elfsborg. I'll be at the Elfsborg match.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a round of 32 when the time frame is for that, but I think Vicario should be back by then. So I could see them ignoring goalkeeper, but if we're going for unanimity, is that a word? Yeah. Okay, then I'm good with the Keeley pick. Yeah, unanimously, I will agree with you guys, Keeley.
Unanimously, yes. Yeah, I think Keeley, like I said, just frees up funds elsewhere, but I also wouldn't be upset with Trafford coming in. Again, I think Vicario's the guy. I don't have any concerns there, but But yeah, I think Keeley would be an interesting way for us to get to Vicario, and it gives Keeley an opportunity too to show his stuff in the Premier League for 7-8 matches and maybe earn a more respectable loan next season, or even a move. I mean, Vicario's young, so if Keeley can earn himself an opportunity to play regular championship, promotion level, or even bottom in the table of Premier League football at a young age, I think that'd be a really cool opportunity for him as well. Let's talk defender. I had one name in mind, and unfortunately I learned about some character stuff that really turned me off to this person, and I'll get to it. But Robbie, anyone at center back coming to mind for you that you want to bring up?
I guess not really at center back, but I've done zero to little research, but it was in that thread that I sent in the group chat earlier today. I'm talking myself into it. Maybe this is the guy. I haven't done any research that you're talking about with character issues, but Patrick Dorgu, who apparently can do left back and left center back. Not really left center back, but like probably could, is the answer from this thread, I guess. But he's a really good left back for his age, like at 20 years old. And I guess apparently he can also play wing in a pinch. So I don't know. Sounds like an interesting purchase. They have him listed at about 30 million. So
you play wing? Welcome to left center back. You're at Spurs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good shout. Not the name I have. I'll get to that. But Max, anyone come to mind?
Yeah, Dorgu would be exciting for me. I think he's more of a summer guy, in my opinion. Like, I feel like right now we kind of need players that the fan base can like rally around that are like more senior players. Like if we got Dorgu in summer, that'd be awesome to have him in Udogie. But I'm going for Mark Gahey from Crystal Palace, just like a proven Premier League center back who's filling in. He's going to be our third choice. He's decent on the ball. He's done a job for England, for Palace for several years now. He's just a professional. He's a Premier League professional, and that's kind of the consistency I want out of like a signing right now. He can fill the hole. He can do a great job, potentially push for minutes, start if Romero goes elsewhere or whatever. He would be a quality option in the England international. So Gay, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but you guys know who I'm talking about.
I always say Gay as well.
Yeah.
And
Mark with a C. That's all I remember. Mark with a C.
Yeah.
Mark with a C.
So unfortunately that was the person that I wanted, and I learned some stuff recently about him. And what I'll say is this: the listener can go Google this and figure out for themselves, right? But just came across some information that essentially shows that he tends to lean on his faith as a way to promote bigotry and feel that bigotry is acceptable, right? I'll leave it at that. And I'm a person of faith. I will die on the hill that people should be able to love who they love and be the person that they want to be, right? And I have a massive problem personally with people using their faith, again, as a person who is religious, using their faith to think that those types of things are okay, right? I just don't understand those things. And I know there's a long history of it, but they don't go hand in hand for me. And I'll never get past the poor characters stay away from my club thing. So unfortunately, he was somebody that I thought would slot in really well. It's not my decision, right? But I would be disappointed at this point if we brought him in. That leads me to probably side with Robbie and say Dorgu as well. If he's capable of playing left center back and left wing, I'm open to it. I actually, and I promise you, Levy is not paying me to say this, but I'm not as concerned with center back as I think the majority of the fan base is, and that's because of Archie Gray. I don't want him to be there long term. I know, right? You're like, dude, you're the Levy mouthpiece. But honestly, when Romero and Van de Ven come back and Davies comes back, and then we've got Radu, who I actually think I would rate lower than Archie Gray when it comes to center back play at this point, right? But I think that leaves you with 5 capable center backs. Archie Gray able to step in even ahead of Radu if required. I think Ben Davies has actually been really good when he's featured. I think we need to sign a center back this summer, right? But I'd be okay if we decide we can get to the summer without signing somebody, because what I don't want is another Radu signing where we know we need a body and we bring in somebody who doesn't quite fit the system. And here we are podcasting about it every week. So I don't know. It feels a little bit of a cop out, right? Because Robbie kind of threw me a softball that I could jump on because I didn't have anyone else to mention besides Mark Gahey, right? But I'd be open to Dorgu.
Yeah, I just, dude, I don't know, man. I don't know if I would feel comfortable just getting out this window with a left back and nose. It's just the Gray thing is absolutely correct. Like, he's been great. He can definitely cover there. I just worry, man. Like, we need him at midfield. Like, that is our 6 for the next 5 years. We need to get him minutes at 6, dude. I don't think he's played a single minute at 6 yet, which is absurd. So that's my hiccup. I can throw a couple of their left-footed center backs out there.
Yeah.
Kiape. He's Ecuadorian from Leverkusen. Solid option. He can cover left back as well. And then a popular name has been Henko, David Henko. He's like a Slovakian player. I think he plays in Netherlands. He can also cover both those positions, and apparently he's good on the ball, so would fit the system pretty well. Quick. I think Hinkiape is as well. So yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I like the Nkape shot a lot. I think he's been really good for Leverkusen. He's left-footed. He can play left back. He's not a left back by trade, right? But is able to do that as well. Don't think he'd be as effective in the way that Ange asks his fullbacks to play, right? But I like that shot a lot. The other interesting link that has been thrown around as pretty substantial is Ben Godfrey, who's now at Atalanta, which I think would be pretty underwhelming. He was at Everton last season. Obviously, we know what it's been like at Everton as of late, right? And with Atalanta, hasn't played much at all, right? But it sounds like Spurs have already inquired about his services as like an immediate center back signing. It would be a total just like stopgap panic signing, right? But
I thought he played right back.
I believe he plays center back from the article that I read. And if I recall his time at Everton, I could be wrong, but yeah. Anyways, that name has been thrown out for a defensive signing in the immediate sense. A lot of names. Might be harder for us to come to a consensus here. I'm out on Gahey. I'll just say that, right? But is there any comfortability coming to a consensus here? Max, what are your thoughts on Dorgu? Do you want to throw out
I like Dorgu, but if we're talking like strictly January, I just feel like that could be a disaster. Like bringing in another 20-year-old who is unproven in the Prem. It's just like, could that be the next like Wilson Odebear? He gets injured. Like I don't want to wish ill on him already, but when we I just want players that are older than like 20, to be honest. But I back Dorgu. I think he'd be a good signing as well. And Robbie mentioned in the chat that Hinkiape and Gahey have been linked since the Conte days to Tottenham. So they've been linked here for a while. I think people could take that one of two ways, but the way I'm taking it is that Paratici scouted them and liked them, and he is the director of football or scout that I trust the most on the planet for Tottenham. So it's positive for me, but I could get on the Dorgu train as well.
Okay. I mean, I'm comfortable saying Hingape as well, to be completely honest. I could be very comfortable there. I think it's going to come down to Robbie, man. Are you sticking with your guns on Dorgu?
It's hard because I know we're going to be progressing through this conversation, and it's like the Archie Gray argument of we need him to play more minutes at 6, and it's like the only confident answer we have of who we would sign in midfield is probably Cardoso, who's a 6, and it's like, well, where are we going to minute his limits? Are we going to minute his limits at center back, at left back? All of these signings are probably going to limit his minutes somewhere. And again, I'm not saying I want Cardoso more than anyone, but he seems to be the clearest path to like an easy signing at 6. So then that means Archie Gray still won't be playing 6. So hard to say, but yeah, doesn't matter to me on the Hincapié or Dorgu. So I'll just say Hincapié. We can mark it there.
All right, let's go. Let's go. We got three of us who are all willing to compromise here, so this could be challenging. But no, we'll go Ngape or Kinkapi. I'm not sure if
I don't know how you say it. I was just
he's like
guessing.
from Ecuador, so I don't.
I'll do it.
I don't know.
Yeah, but we know he balls, so yeah, be a good signing. Let's move to midfield. I'm gonna tell you guys that I'm not gonna name a 6 here, and I'm gonna have a creative argument, right? So I'll go last, but let's start with you, Max.
Yeah, Cardoso, good player. We literally own the rights to him, so just bring him in, please. Just get him in at this point. He's gonna play for Tottenham. I'm so sure.
Yeah, Robbie.
Yeah, that was the only thing I had prepared to say because again, it just feels like we're already too far down that road. That in a January window that's shorter and less money involved, we kind of already have it ironed out. So it seems like we could just flip a switch and have it done.
Yeah,
but it's never that easy with Tottenham. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't disagree with either of you. I think Johnny will be at Spurs at some point. I personally think it may happen in the summer more so than in January. I think we could see Basuma moved on and Cardoso brought in, and then Cardoso and Bentancur with Archie Gray there as well, kind of operating as our contingent of 6s. If you want to say, I think Bentancur at least gives Johnny time to settle in. If required, and then Gray to continue to develop, right? I don't think Bentancur is a bad player. I also don't think he is the best option of the 6 all the way forward. But I think we can get to this summer if required. I'm gonna say, and this is where I say I'm gonna get creative here. I'm gonna throw Jack Grealish in as the midfield signing. He has historically played as a 10. He's played as an attacking midfielder, throughout his career. Certainly hasn't for City, right? But I think I say that because if you're able to sign Jack Grealish and the person that I'm going to shout when it comes to the attack, right, you'd be humming. And I think again that we can get to this summer with the midfield that we have right now without bringing anyone in. When you talk about Bergvall earlier, Max being able to play the 6 fairly well, I think Archie Gray, Basuma, Bentancur, I think we have enough to get there. And that's why I would love to get creative here and say Jack Grealish as the midfield signing to be able. I mean, he really could step in for Kulusevski, Madison in that attacking creative playmaker sense, right? Also play on the wing, and but he's like the one signing that I will put above all other people that we're talking about. I think Grealish needs to come in for us immediately. I think he slides right into the 11 and makes an impact.
Yeah. Grealish is my guy. I was going to say him for the attackers segment. So yeah, I could back him for the midfielder segment as well. Dude, he would change the game for us. I think he needs a change of scenery as well. If we can get him on loan and not have to pay a fee for him, and then maybe pay a fee in summer, something like that, like an agreement. Like we've signed a winger on loan the last 2 January windows, Werner last year and Danjuma the year before. So if we can make it Jack Grealish this year and then potentially have the option to buy him in June would be splendid for Tottenham, I think.
Robbie, could I convince you to say Jack Grealish for the midfield signing?
I'm so negative on the Tottenham transfer. I just don't see us ever signing Jack Grealish. There's no way we pay that money. Like I just don't see it happening. I really don't. Because Levy would probably be like 40 million pounds and Richarlison or something like it's never. I just don't think we're ever gonna have, because what is he? We did this in an earlier podcast. He's valued at like 80 million or something. Like something still insane. I just don't think we're ever gonna do that. And the only interesting
thing. Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with what you're saying. I think the only interesting thing that I'll say here is that City is going to be looking to really rebuild their squad this summer, I can imagine, over the next 3 windows, I would say. They are aging rapidly, as we know. It's obviously 1 win in 13 for City, so their age is showing, and they're at the point where they really are going to go through a very painful rebuild. And with PSR, that requires selling players. And so I think for them to be able to rebuild in the way they're going to want to, they may be willing to let people go at a discount. I think you could get Grealish for 50 million potentially, which is still a lot for someone who's in the later stages of their 20s, right? But I also hear everything you're saying about Spurs wanting to finagle, and it could be the case where if Grealish were to actually come in, it would be on the 30th or the 31st of the month, right? Which may not do us a ton of good.
Yeah, I want him. Don't get me wrong. I feel like Levy's gonna make it difficult, and it's probably not gonna. I don't know, in January, maybe not. But yeah, I think it would be great. But
yeah, so maybe
he's too big of a name. I feel like we never get across the line with like giant names. It's always like, oh, we'll go for it. Won't be Jack Grealish, so we'll find the guy that we were wanting after him.
Yeah, well, and there's also the question: does he want to come to Spurs? I think I can imagine if he's being shocked and City are saying we're willing to move on from Grealish, I'll tell you what, Aston Villa is going to be very interested. I'm sure they have some sort of buyback, or maybe they do. I don't know. I shouldn't say I'm sure, right? But there could be something in their deal with City that involves a buyback too, a discount or something like that. So, yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'm comfortable. Excuse me. I'm comfortable saying Cardozo is a midfielder, right? If we feel like that's a more realistic option, right? I think my pitch to bring Grealish in as a midfield option is a bit of a pipe dream. So again, I'm comfortable saying Cardozo if that's the route the two of you would like to go.
Yeah, I'd say probably
Grealish for an attacker too if we want. But yeah, I think for a midfielder, Cardozo is probably more realistic.
All right, we'll go with Johnny. I'll take the L. All right, let's move up top. I'm gonna start to give myself the start after taking the L in the midfield. The one attacker that I want to see us bring in is Brian Mbeumo from Brentford. I that's one that Max and I and probably Robbie at this point too. He's come up a lot on the show, right? But I know Max and I have talked about that one pretty extensively in the past. 12 goal contributions in 18 matches this season for Brentford. 10 goals, 2 assists, right, to specify there. But power, pace, technical ability, he can dribble at people. He's really good at making those outside to inside runs, which I think is very important for wingers at Spurs, right? That's really the run that leads to goals over and over for a guy like Brennan Johnson, right, for example. So I'd love to see us bring a Prem-proven, ready-made option at the left or, frankly, the right flank if required. I think Mbeumo's the guy for me, and reportedly like 30-ish million, right? So I think it's something we could get done as well. Max, how about you?
Yeah, that's who I got as well. Yeah, dude, he's so good. And he's so slept on. And people think he's old because he's bald and has a beard, but he's only 26. So he could enter his prime at Tottenham. Currently valued at 50 million on transfer market, which is 5 million more than Jack Grealish. So we'll see. We'll see if Spurs are willing to shell that out. Honorable mentions, both Japanese wingers, Kubo and Matoma, would be great options to suffice. Same characteristics. I wouldn't say as much of a scoring threat as Mbeumo is, but definitely create chances, technical dribbling, and pacey. Both of them are. So those would fit the mold as well.
Yeah, good shots. Robbie, anybody else beyond those you want to mention?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I know that it makes sense to keep Richarlison. I'm just like so out on him. So like I wouldn't hate a proven striker that's someone like, I don't know. I know that Jonathan David's been a name that's been thrown around a ton.
Yeah.
Just someone that we know will come in and be like, yeah, he's gonna try to score. Like, I don't know. It just seems to me it's just simple. There's no real explanation. There's no data behind it. But if we just had someone besides Dom that was like, yeah, we know this guy scores. He fires them home. He taps them in. He whatever. Just having another player besides Dom that we can confidently say that about, I think would be awesome. And maybe that's not a January thing, but that's a name I'll throw out.
Yeah, good shot.
I also think a pipe dream is Cunha, Mateus Cunha from Wolves.
Dude, yes.
I think he's going to City or Liverpool or Chelsea, but if we could somehow land him, he is like a world-class player.
I think he's an upgrade on Maddison personally, which sounds kind of harsh on Maddison, but I think he's like kind of a similar profile in some sense and just a little bit. I think he's able to dig the ball out a little bit better than Madison is at times, right? But Madison's great, don't get me wrong, but I love Cunha as well. Yeah, and there's always a world too where we sign more than one player at each of these positions, right? This is just a simple exercise. I think if we're really serious, we go out and we sign a couple wingers, if not 3 options up top, right? And move on. Again, a guy like Timo and potentially Richarlison. I mean, if you brought in, hypothetically here, Mbeumo, Kumo/Matoma, and a striker, Jonathan David, this is, again, a major pipe dream here. But if you bring those 3 guys in, you move on Timo, you move on Richarlison, I really think things are starting to look really good and starting to hum for Ange Postecoglou, because I've said it already on this show. The reason we suck right now is we don't have the wing play required to be effective in the system. The only way we're going to score goals right now is to cede some of this possession that we carry, because the only way we score is transitioning out of the midfield, and we're not able to do that against these low blocks, right? And until we get the winger situation figured out, we're going to struggle. So, again, if we're serious, regardless of what's going on at the back, all of that, I understand there's pain points and there's injuries. For me, it's all on that wing play that really puts us in the situation where we're not scoring as many goals as we can against these low blocks to be able to see matches out. So, yeah, there's a world where we sign more than one, but I'm comfortable staying in Mbeumo if we're good with that as the consensus signing up top, which leaves Jack Grealish out, unfortunately. But again, this is just an exercise on a random podcast. That does not mean that won't happen for Spurs. So, yeah. And then again, maybe since our consensus goalkeeper is the return of Aloni, we can do ourselves a favor and just say Jack Grealish for that goalkeeper slot, right? And we bring 4 guys in. So, but yeah, consensus for the recap is bringing Keeley back at the goalkeeper position. We're going to say Dorgu as the center back / left back option. We're going to say Johnny as a 6, and we're going to say Varane and Mbeumo up top with an honorable mention to Jack Grealish stepping into that goalkeeper slot, because our choice is to bring Keeley back. And again, Jack Grealish or not Jack Grealish, I think those other 4 moves make for a pretty good window for Spurs right now.
Yep.
Yeah, that leaves only last but not least, the Loan on the Academy Watch, brought to you by our wonderful friends
Newcastle. You want to do Newcastle?
Let's chat Newcastle for a second before we go.
We're gonna get cooked. That's all I have to say. They looked so good today.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, I think it's going to be a bad day for us too. I think they'll be well set up to defend in a very organized fashion, and I cannot think of their winger opposite of I can't think of either of them now, but
Anthony Gordon.
Gordon's one of them.
Yeah, Anthony Gordon, but the gentleman, Barnes plays, but then it's not Jacob Ramsey, who I keep wanting to say, but
Jacob Murphy.
Jacob Murphy, thank you. I think Jacob Murphy, and I think that Anthony
Gordon.
Help me out again.
Anthony Gordon.
Thank you. Anthony Gordon will be well prepared to break on us. So I expect us to get beat in the same manner that pretty much every team has been beating us as of late. Max and I came through with the negativity. Robbie, you got anything positive to say about this one?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's always a weird game with them. Like either it's a blowout or it's, I guess the only goal we scored against them last time was an own goal. So expect something weird to happen. I'm just gonna say it because I think every team is on a roller coaster of mid this year, where they have great moments, then they're mid, then they're whatever. I'm gonna say 1-1 draw. Let's bring it home, boys. 1-1 draw.
Yeah, that'd be an excellent point for Spurs right now. We haven't even talked about Alexander Isak, who should be able to feast against Radu Dragusin and Archie Gray, unfortunately. I think he's the best striker in the Premier League. I think he's the best all-around striker. I know people want to talk about Haaland, but it was well said on ESPN FC today, and I totally agree with this. If you're the best striker in the world, sometimes you're going to have to make goals on your own without service, right? And he's not getting service, but the best strikers on the planet create goals for themselves, and I don't really see that from the big Viking. Not that I wouldn't love him at Spurs, right? But I think Alexander Isak is is him when we're talking about the striker position in the Premier League. So that should be a tough one for Spurs as well. But yeah, I'd love a point. I don't expect anything other than a loss, but time will tell. It's exciting times because we just never know what's going to happen. Could be a thumping defeat, could be a 5-0 win. You just never know with this club.
I hope we get
Newcastle does have a few dirtbags on their team. I'll say that. Like, and I mean that as a compliment. Like, you need dirtbags. Dan Burn is a dirtbag for sure. A shithouser, if you will. There's a few of those guys on their team.
Dude, and their midfield's good too. Guy Maris, Joe Ellington, and Sandro Tonali, who is probably their preferred midfield trio. All very good players. I think Bruno Guimaraes will be approached by City this January if I'm not mistaken. Who knows if it'll happen, right? But I think City will go after Guimaraes, and I wouldn't expect Tonali to be there forever either. Joe Ellington, I think, is probably a little bit more rooted to just down to a lack of a move. But yeah, we'll see. Again, everything to play for right now. 3 points on the line. It's at home. We'll hope for the best.
If we get cooked, we might get more signings. So, yeah,
let's go. We know they're rocking with Ainge, so I'm good with getting thumped again if it means more money. More money will be spent on the squad, and we're really going to come down to the chairman and Enoch and how serious they are about this project. I don't think they can sack Ainge. I think they've painted themselves into a really poor light when it comes to sacking managers on the back of little investment. I think there's probably very few managers who would be willing to come to Spurs right now, seeing how things have progressed over the past, decade, or really Enoch's whole tenure. I think Pochettino is the only one who was given any sort of time and was still sacked way too early, in my opinion. I think if they just would have rode out the Pochettino hiccup or pain point, I think he'd probably still be at the club and we would have won something by now, right? But they weren't willing to invest in him, and I think they painted themselves in a really poor light. And I just think they know they have to ride out Ainge and give him what he needs in order to play his style of football. So, yeah, it's really going to be on Enoch, and we will see if they're ready to pony up and get this club set up for better days. Yeah, and that brings us to, again, that aforementioned Loan and Academy Watch, brought to you by our wonderful friends at the Wits End, Rainier Growlers, and Cascades, our homes, plural, of Seattle Spurs. As always, get down and check out a match if you're able and watch with the great folks at Seattle Spurs. But Max, what do you got for us on those watches?
Yeah, 2 goals in 2 games for Jamie Donnelly at Leyton Orient. He has had a bit of a tough go in fall, so it's good to see him on the score sheet. George Abbott got on the score sheet today for Notts County. He's been having a great loan there. They seem to really like him there, been starting every game. At the outside back position in League 2, Academy still on winter break. They return on January 7th, so they haven't played since December 14th. So we will be eagerly awaiting the return of Luca Williams-Barnett and the boys. Ola Cisse has been consistently featuring on the bench for Tottenham, which is exciting as well. So yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah, so you might have named him off already, but I saw it on social media. Somebody had a match winner in like stoppage time or something. It was on loan somewhere. No, it wasn't Vuskovic, but it was someone else. Maybe it was Abbott. I don't remember. But
it was Abbott. Yeah, it was.
I think the Spurs official account posted it even. But it was an exciting stoppage time winner.
Yeah, George Abbott.
Yeah, good shot.
And then I have some final questions for you guys. Just like, this is kind of Robbie's area, but just some vibes like on Twitter / at the club after the game yesterday. First of all, a lot of complaining about like celebration in the home end, tourism at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I just wanted to say that I think it's utterly like ridiculous and like usually on Twitter racist, frankly, like what people are saying about like the tourists from South Korea and other Asian countries that come in to support Sun and are like trying to enjoy themselves, a once in a lifetime experience, spent thousands and thousands of dollars on this trip likely, and getting like abused on Twitter for trying to have a good time at the game is insane to me. And then it was magnified yesterday because Hwang scored for Wolves, the opening goal. And then there was some cheers in the home end because Hwang is also South Korean. So that caused for even more abuse and racism towards our own fans on the Twitter timeline, which is absolutely crazy and unacceptable, in my opinion. So I was just seeing if you guys were seeing this as well, and what you guys thought. How the
I
clubs
saw
would approach it.
the picture that's going viral was 2 Korean fans taking like a selfie
Yeah,
in
that
the
was
home end, and everyone was commenting saying these stupid tourists who only come here to watch Sun, they're not even Spurs fans. They're all that nonsense. And then the people have been saying this since the stadium opened, that the atmosphere is dead. We're a tourism club. There's no energy in the stadium anymore. All that stuff. And I was gonna say, I was gonna bring this up earlier too. I got like bullied on Twitter by some English people because I replied to some thread. It was, so the vibes are bad, to answer your question. But you guys maybe have seen him. His name is Cody Mack on Twitter, at Mac Do. He posted a tweet basically saying that Ange has been way more disrespectful to fans than Conte ever was. Does Ange hate the fans? And I replied saying, Spurs fans are toxic. This fan base is constantly bullying players, managers, and the board, and you really need to take a look at themselves in the mirror. And I got a bunch of hate replies to my tweet. My favorite one I'll read here, from Blanche, a faceless Twitter account with 15 numbers in his name. Said, always the Americans who've never attended a game with this take on the matters. Go back to egg chasing, you cunt. I don't even know what that means. But
first of all, Cody Mack is Canadian. He is not English, right? So it's funny to see all these English people like jump on a Canadian's post. I've podcasted with Cody Mack before. He's shout out to him or whatever. But and he definitely posts things that draw conversation, we could say, right? So pretty on brand for him to put that out. Yeah. Good dude though. I'll say I haven't been on Twitter the past couple of weeks. I just needed like a break.
Dude, good for you, man.
I just took it off my phone and decided I was going to invest my time elsewhere for a little while, and I'm sure I'll be back. But I will say, although I haven't seen it, I have over the years seen plenty of racism. I want to say that there's a lot of racism in sports in England, a lot of racism that seems to be justified by English fans, but there's also a ton of racism in the U.S., so I don't say that from like a holier than thou place, right? I'm not on a soapbox when I say that, but the only thing that I can really say about all of this, other than racism is fucking atrocious and has no place in sports or no place in the world in general, is that Spurs fans are just the worst. We really are, and I have to say I don't say that. I wouldn't say that any of us hold the opinions of the fans that I'm highlighting here, but right, we are Spurs fans. Spurs fans are the worst. We want beautiful attacking football. We also want results. Sometimes you can't always have both things, or it takes time to have both things, we could say, right? We also want to be a player on the world stage and want to be at the upper echelon of European football, but don't want the things that come with that. Do you think Real Madrid, Man City, Man United, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, they don't get tourists? Juventus, their whole fucking stadium is tourists. Like, that's where the money comes from, right? You grow your brand and you get people from all over the world following your club, and they want to come watch their club, right? It's, how dare you say that these people who invest their lives, like all of us in Spurs, don't have the right to come and watch a match? When I watch a match in London, it's fucking expensive, and I'm usually on my way to South Africa, and I've got a lot going on, and I make time out of my trip to come and support my club, and it's just bullshit that there's this attitude that people like us, like people from South Korea, don't deserve to come watch Spurs because we're not English. It's really just kind of nationalistic, which is, in my opinion, a pretty toxic thing, right? Nationalism, and and I would say there's probably a certain type of demographic that's generating most of that hate at other people, right? Unfortunately, and as a white man, would say that it is white men that are doing this, right? Unfortunately, and that's just unacceptable and just really troubling and has no place in sports or again in the world in general. So us here at Emerald Lilywhites, we support people being who they are. We support people supporting what club they want to support, and we support people going to watch that club, regardless of who that is. Be an Arsenal fan, go watch your club. I don't even care, right? But let's just make sure that we respect one another, most importantly. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
And I have one last thing to add. People are attacking people for getting half and half scarves from the games. Yeah. That is sold at the game. Tottenham, the club, is actively promoting that merch. So why are you getting mad at people for buying the merch that Spurs are selling in their own stadium? And then lastly, for the celebrating in the home end, obviously probably not that many people are going to hear this and go celebrate in the home end. But if you are visiting, I think the number one thing that people have to understand is that it is unsafe for if you celebrate your countryman scores. If I see Tyler Adams score a banger and I'm in the home end at Spurs and I'm celebrating, that's also dangerous for you to be there. So it's also a safety concern. So the whole thing is just a mess. But yeah, obviously we're all American. We support Tottenham, so we want everyone across the world. We don't care where you're from. We just want more people to support Spurs, but that is not the British ideal. And it feels really weird, honestly, because there are players from all over the world that go and play in England. And I know in American sports, in baseball, there's players from the Dominican, from all over Central America that come play. In basketball, Europeans are taking over the league. And I feel I never see this type of the Red Sox, there's way too many Dominican fans here. Don't bring them to the game. Why would that doesn't make any sense to anyone. So I've only seen it in England. So I don't know. It's not just the racism. It's the gatekeeping of your team from outside people outside your country that just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't compute. And it really doesn't happen, at least to my knowledge, in America that much. So it's kind of just shocking.
Yeah, it's a good point, man. Again, it goes back. Sorry, Rob, real quick. Just goes back to that nationalism. And England colonized the world. They stole culture from every corner of the globe, implemented their own culture on every part of the globe. And not that America hasn't done horrible things, right? I'm not trying to be holier than thou. But from a sporting perspective, like you said, the entire league is made up of people from other countries. There aren't very many English people who light the league on fire anymore, right? There's a small handful rather, but yeah, it's a really strange thing for sure. As a Houston Astros fan, a Houston Dynamo fan, I love meeting people from other countries at those matches. There's a Twitter account, Astros UK, which is one of the most highly respected Astros fans on the planet. And when he comes to Houston, we give the guy the red carpet, right? And the entire stadium celebrates his presence. So it's just, it's something that I agree is different for sure. Robbie, I cut you off a long time ago, though. What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say I'll have a lot more to report back on that because I'll be there in a month. And I'm quite literally planning my outfit around this. I do not want to look like a tourist. I've seen on TV that British people don't wear anything that is even Spurs. They just wear normal clothes to these matches. Yeah. I'll probably wear a Spurs baseball hat, but that's it. I'm going to wear just normal winter jacket. I'm not going to wear a kit. I'm not going to wear anything, I don't want anyone to be like, oh, you stupid American, you get out of here, which I'm sure they'll still figure out a way that I'm American because of my teeth are white and straight. But
and you're tall.
And
they don't really got tall people over there.
Yeah, so they'll figure it out. But yeah, no, I'm literally and I've always been that way. You guys know this too. I grew up in Wisconsin. I've been a fan of the Seahawks since I was a kid. I've always been a fan of far away teams. So I'm hyper conscious of I'm at away games all the time. I don't want someone to throw their beer on me. I don't want someone to. I never trash talk because I don't want to give anybody a reason to do that to me. But yeah, I am huge, so I don't even think they would anyway.
They don't want smoke.
But yeah, I'll have a lot more to give feedback on that and be like, what did I experience and what did I see when I'm at the game? So that'll be interesting.
No
Yeah,
doubt.
and then final question. We're running. This is a long podcast, but we did the transfer market and talked about the game. For Robbie, did you see James Madison's reply to a fan? What did you think of this? Just seems like the most Robbie story ever.
I think the guy was technically some sort of journalist. He wasn't like a paper journalist, but James Madison was seen. Was it the same day as the match? I don't remember, but it was later in the night.
With
him and Brennan Johnson were at a darts match, and somebody commented saying, or maybe it was a reporter that posted the picture and was basically suggesting oh, he's at a darts game the same day. And then some other fan chimed in, and then what did he call him? He called him a Wally.
Shut up, you Wally.
Yeah. Oh, I support James Madison even more after that. So there were so many people saying, how dare our vice captain speak like that? I'm like, dude, that's awesome. I don't care. That's sweet. I'm a fan. I'm rooting for James.
People are like, this is not what we need right now. It's like, dude,
yeah.
What is he supposed to do? Just watch highlights of our losses? I don't know.
Go home
That's
and
what
watch.
We do, not him.
Yeah, dude. Just James, you have to go straight to your fucking house and sit down and watch film and have bland food and fucking have no fun because you lost today. Dude, get the fuck out of here. Fans are just unreal. And I think we have to say, a lot of what we've been talking about too are a certain select few on Twitter, right? Who get very brave behind a device, right? And a lot of those people wouldn't say fucking shit in person. Maybe they would, and maybe they get smoked for it, but who knows? Either way, I had a good laugh from that, man. I'm super happy that James Madison calls somebody a Wally. I love James. All right, well let's leave it at that. What a wonderful way to end an episode that was full of drab and negativity because Spurs have put us there. Good for you, James Madison. For myself, for Robbie, for Max, for everybody at Emerald and Lilywhite, everybody at Seattle Spurs, we appreciate your time. You can find me at Scott G. Bird. You can find Robbie at Robbie_Light and Robbie Light on Twitter. You can find Max at Going Limbs. You can find us at Ann Lilywhite on all social media platforms. And most importantly, you can find Seattle Spurs at Seattle Spurs on all social media platforms. We are the official YouTube channel of Seattle Spurs. Also, as we always say, sign up for the email list for Seattle Spurs at seattlespurs@gmail.com. Sign up for the mailing list. You're going to get all kinds of information on watch matches, just Tottenham in general. There's going to be holiday party stuff, all throughout the season, not just this holiday season, right? But throughout the calendar year, you get all kinds of cool information on Seattle Spurs. So make sure you sign up. And then please like and subscribe to the channel. We're not here to beg for those things, but it really helps us grow the platform, which in turn helps us grow Seattle Spurs, which is the whole point of us doing what we do. So please like and subscribe to the channel. Get your friends on board. If your friends aren't Spurs fans, get them a kit, bring them down to the pub, show them what it looks like. Results aren't always great, but we have a good time and a cold beer. Tip your bartender as well. And with that, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.